Sophie adjusted the collar of her blouse one last time before stepping into the minimalist lobby of the real estate agency. Her resume trembled slightly in her hand, but her gaze stayed steady. She had rehearsed every word she would say, confident, direct, and ready to impress. What she didn't rehearse was him. Behind the reception desk, the man who looked up at her wasn't what she expected. No suit, no stiffness, just a rolled-up white shirt, a loose tie, and a jawline that could sell a mansion on its own. His name tag said Nathan, but his smirk said 1,000 other things. "Looking for a place or leaving your resume?" he asked, voice smooth like polished wood floors. "A little of both, maybe," Sophie replied, surprised at her own flirtatious tone. Nathan stood, slowly walking around the desk. His presence filled the room, not in volume, but in gravity. He glanced at her resume, then back at her. "We're not officially hiring, but I can take a look at your credentials anyway." She smiled. "I'm very hands-on, learn fast, adapt easily." His brow lifted. "Is that so?" Before she could respond, he gestured towards a hallway. "Let me show you the layout." She followed him, heels clicking on the polished floor, heart thudding a little too loud. Maybe this was just a building. Or maybe, just maybe, something very interesting was about to be unlocked. If you're enjoying the story so far, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. It helps the channel grow, and we drop new stories like this every single week. Nathan led her past the meeting room and into a corridor flanked by frosted glass doors. As they walked, he talked about the company, the market, some recent property listings. But Sophie noticed how often his eyes flicked to her reflection in the glass. And she wasn't exactly innocent either. Her gaze kept finding the way his back moved beneath that slightly wrinkled shirt. They stopped in front of a room labeled Model Suite. He held the door open for her with a slight bow. "This is where we showcase premium living," he said. The room inside looked like a small apartment. A compact kitchen, sofa, desk, and a queen-sized bed staged near the window. Her heels clicked softly on the wood as she entered, taking it all in. "Looks cozy," she said. Nathan stepped in behind her, the door closing with a faint click. "You'd be surprised what people do in here when they forget the cameras are off." She turned to face him. "Are the cameras off now?" He smiled. "They've been off since you walked in." A spark jumped between them, silent but undeniable. His hand brushed past her arm as he moved to the fake kitchen counter. "You said you're hands-on, right?" he asked, fingers tapping the edge. She nodded, her breath catching. "Then maybe you'd like to demonstrate." Her feet moved on their own, closing the distance. The way he looked at her, like she was the only thing in the room that mattered, made the world tilt a little. She leaned on the counter too, facing him, close, warm. Nathan tilted his head, voice dropping. "Ever negotiated for a position off the record?" The tension thickened, not rushed, not crude, just two people towing the line between professional and personal, curiosity and chemistry, and neither seemed. Sophie leaned on the edge of the counter, her fingers grazing the cold surface while Nathan stood just inches away. The silence between them wasn't awkward, it pulsed. Every glance, every movement, every pause had weight. "You know," she said, her voice almost playful, "I didn't expect this when I printed my resume this morning." He chuckled, eyes drifting from her lips to her neckline and back. "Some opportunities don't come printed on paper." The mood was charged, but never out of bounds. She could walk away if she wanted, but she didn't, not even close. He gestured to the staged living room. That's the open area, perfect for creative meetings or less formal conversations. Sophie stepped toward the sofa, sinking slightly into the cushions. Nathan followed, but didn't sit. He leaned on the backrest, watching her with interest. "So, Tell me, what makes you think you're the right fit? She looked up at him with a sly smile. I adapt fast, I listen, I take initiative. He brows lifted, impressed. You make a strong case. The banter was light, but under it, an unspoken current danced between them. He walked slowly around the sofa and finally took a seat beside her, close but still respectful. You've got this confidence, he said, his voice now softer. It's not just your resume that's impressive. She tilted her head. Confidence is part of the job, isn't it? Their knees touched. It wasn't an accident. Her breath hitched, and he noticed. His hand rested gently on the cushion between them, fingers slowly curling, as if waiting for permission to get closer. Sophie looked at him, her voice barely above a whisper. How do I know if I got the position? Nathan's smile was slow, deliberate. Let's just say the interview is still in progress. Their eyes locked. The game wasn't over. It had just begun. Nathan stood up and walked toward the mini coffee bar in the corner. Do you take sugar? He asked, glancing over his shoulder. Sophie remained on the couch, crossing her legs slowly, deliberately. Depends on who's offering. He smirked, pouring 2 cups. The scent of roasted beans filled the room, warm and inviting. He handed her a mug, their fingers brushing lightly during the exchange. It was such a simple touch, yet her entire body responded. Office perks, he joked, sitting back down beside her. Caffeine and company. Sophie sipped the coffee, eyes never leaving his. I can get used to both. There was no rush, no scripted move. It was an unfolding, each moment pushing boundaries without crossing lines. Her heels slipped off casually, toes brushing the carpet, an innocent gesture laced with undertones. Nathan leaned forward slightly. I believe in workplace chemistry. It boosts creativity. Is that what this is? Creative brainstorming? He smiled, setting down his cup. Let's call it alignment of interests. Their proximity created a shared heat. The room wasn't small, but it felt like the walls had moved in, framing just the two of them. Sophie tilted her head, letting her hair fall over one shoulder. Nathan's gaze followed the movement with fascination. I have to admit, this is the most engaging interview I've ever had. His voice dropped. We haven't even covered long-term goals yet. She raised an eyebrow, lips curving. Try me. There was a pause, a delicious silence. Then Nathan reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. His hand hovered near her cheek, and she didn't pull away. Sophie's breath caught again, not from surprise, but anticipation. Everything about this moment was unsaid, but undeniable. The coffee sat forgotten. Nathan didn't speak. He simply looked at her, as if memorizing her face, her breath, the slight parting of her lips. Sophie, now fully aware of the electricity pulsing between them, tilted her chin up, narrowing the space that still lingered. The tension was no longer just implied. It was thick, almost visible. But still, neither crossed the line, not with actions, only presence. You have that look, she whispered, voice almost a dare. Like you've already imagined what comes next. He chuckled softly. Maybe I have, but I'm more curious about what you imagined when you walked through that door. Sophie set her empty mug on the table. I thought I was just dropping off a resume. And now? She leaned in, her lips a breath away from his ear. Now, I think I might stay for the team building. Nathan closed his eyes briefly, as if absorbing her voice like heat. I'll make sure HR approves. A shared laugh broke the tension for half a second, until their eyes locked again. No words, no script. Just chemistry. Sophie stood up, but slowly, purposefully. She said, maybe I should leave something behind. just in case you need to call me back." Nathan followed her movement with his eyes. "Something tells me you won't be hard to find." She turned to him at the doorway, one hand on the frame, her silhouette outlined by the soft hallway light. "Don't lose my number, Nathan." "I wouldn't dream of it." And with a final glance, part smile, part promise, Sophie disappeared down the hallway. Nathan remained frozen for a moment, caught between disbelief and anticipation. As he looked around the office, still filled with her scent, he knew one thing for sure. The job had just gotten very interesting.